Fred, Ted bread, and Fred, Ted bread.
Fred. Fred fed Ted bread and Ted fed bread.
Fred fed Ted bread and Ted Fred. Fred fed Ted bread and fed Ted. Fred fed Ted bread and Ted fed Ted bread.
Close.
Fred bread. I keep feeding Ted.
Feed Fred a little bit now. Fred's getting hungry.
Fred fed Ted bread and Fred.
Nope.
And Fred fed Ted bread and Ted fed Fred bread.
Fred fed Ted bread and Ted fed Fred bread. Ted fed bread Fred. Ted fed Fred bread and Fred. Ted fed Fred bread and Fred bread. Ted fed Fred bread. God dang it. Ted. Girl. Ted fed Fred bread and Fred fed Ted bread.
Fred fed Ted bread and Fred bread.
No. Fred fed Ted bread and Fred Ted bread. Ted Fred. Ah!